classes, right? There was like this chatting thing going on. The publicity for these classes, there was this chatting thing we used to do a publicity for. Or my messages with Fazila Mariam is nothing like that. She sends me a lot of stuff, and my response is really, really lagging lah. I sometimes she sends me so much stuff, ya Allah. So much resources and articles and videos and like a lot, like really a lot. When I say a lot, it's a lot, of articles after every single class. And she wants me to translate all of these for you, and I've not gotten around at all doing any of it. Which is why I'm just gonna take today to just see what I can do. I doubt I'll be able to finish it actually. But we'll do what we can. Okay, we'll do what we can. I'm scrolling back up to see where was the beginning of her of her sending me of all the articles. Mashallah. Allah. Okay, tamam. Right. So I'm gonna just focus on the questions that came during the Sirah. Okay, so inshallah, questions that came during the Mabadi Suluk, there will be like inshallah, I will get around to also translating that. Inshallah. Okay, tamam. Hmm, okay. Do you all want to see the? Okay, never mind. It's okay. Like okay. So some of the questions, I think one of the major questions that was asked. Let me just see what she has been sending me. Mm, Mm. Yeah, she was mentioning about she actually sent me a poem written in Arabic, right? That basically summarizes the Shama'il of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I think there was a question, on how do we teach our children about the Shama'il of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? And I think honestly with the English media, we kind of like, we're still not there with regards to the Shama'il of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for children. I think there's like a vacuum there. I mean, there's a lot of work to be done. Still work to be done. Right. So the Shama'il, basically the physical characteristics of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, very much we have it has been translated into English, but in books that are more for adults to understand. And basically the Shama'il also the terminology, the words can be very, technical in a sense. Right. So but she sent me a very beautiful poem, mashallah, written in Arabic, right, on the Shama'il of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So like I think what will be useful if somebody to translate this poem, or you write your own poem from what you have, from what I mean. I'm putting this out to people. Okay, like pick it up. If you're good at writing, you're good at doing poems, you're good at doing all this stuff, right? When you whatever you learn of the Shama'il, right, put it into poetry. And she was encouraging that. Right. If you can remind me what were the questions that were asked, I can actually go through. Okay, so the question here about the father and the mother of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right? So, and this is like an official answer, like by and in fact, from many different sources, of what the ulama have discussed, right, about the parents of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right? So the ulama by consensus, right, jumhur, all of them are by consensus on the answer and the fact that the parents of Rasulullah alayhi salam, they are freed from the hellfire. Okay, that is by consensus of the ulama, right? So those people who today, right, who are claiming that the parents of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam are in the hellfire, they have absolutely no basis, because none of the ulama say it. Right, none of the I'm saying like the ulama from really like in the past, right, hundreds of years ago, all the while no one has ever said that the parents of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam are in the hellfire. Not a single person has ever said that they are in the hellfire. It is something that is I would say bid'ah. It is an innovation in our zaman. Our zaman is an innovation of the same people. It's the same group of people, like, who go around saying that doing zikr after prayer is bid'ah, doing, salawat together is bid'ah, like doing Quran for deceased is bid'ah. The same group of people, they are the same group of people who are claiming the parents of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam are in the hellfire. Same group of people, because they're on the same ideology, on the same methodology that brings them astray, right? And they are bring other people astray. right? So beware of them, huh? Beware of them. They appeared in the 1960s, right? And they're still continuing till today. I think, Alhamdulillah, in Asia, more or less, it has died down. It used to be stronger in the 1980s, right? In Asia, especially in Singapore, it spread, right? But I think nowadays, I kind of feel that it kind of died down, but it's still around. It's still around, especially in Singapore, still around. In the West, it's very strong, right? In the West, it's very strong, right? Because mashallah, because this ideology, they actually pump a lot of money, right, into English da'wah, right? They actually pump a lot of money into da'wah in English online, right? So in the West, what people tend to do is just to Google stuff, right? And they just learn their Islam online. Okay, so this ideology is actually gaining strength and gaining ground, especially in the West, right? In America, in the UK, in Australia, especially in the West, right? So just be very careful as to what you're reading, what you are listening to, what you are hearing. So the proofs of the parents of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So on the very basis of it, and then I think we went through the answer previously as well. But and you all can ask your questions as well, because this is more of me just answering all your questions from the past few months, from past few weeks, that's been piling up on me to answer, right? But you can also ask your questions, okay? If you have like, any follow-up questions, I'm just giving this time to just iron out any issues or solve any issues. And it's a very important thing learning about the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, because it is a point of attack in our zaman. And unfortunately for myself, like I've heard of my own family members, right, who have left the religion because they've been hearing slander about Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and they believe it. They hear the slander on Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and they believe it, without clarifying, without understanding the matter. And it's the same slander, and it subhanAllah, these people, the enemies of Islam, and they're not creative. And the same slander. But I think what it is a slander that never occurred from before with the previous enemies of Islam. These people only in this day, whereby they keep attacking Sayyidina Aisha, they keep attacking his wife that he had. All these things are like these are all cultural matters, which unfortunately people have never studied um logic. And you don't study logic, you don't know how an argument is presented and how an argument is defended, and you think that certain factors affect um, certain realities when they don't. Right? This is a problem of our zaman, but it has caused people to leave Islam because of this issue. Right? So which is why Sirah, learning the prophetic biography is one of is I would say the most important thing, of the most important things, for us to study in Islam. It is really part of our shahada. So at the very basis of Islam, it's part of Shahada Muhammad Rasulullah. You must give this time. You must give Sirah time. You must understand Sirah well. So I want you all to ask your questions. I'm here. I'm giving you all one hour of my time. I'm gonna stop at 7 o'clock to get ready for the next class. Right, but ask your questions. Right, any of the of the ishkal, any of the issues that they have come up about the life of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, ask those questions, right? And if you go deeper into his life, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, you will find there were different stances that he took, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, in his life, right? So it's not always, people always say, about Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, it's all about, he's lenient, he's merciful, he's gentle. That is true. That is true, right? But Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he is an example. And so he actually teaches us when gentleness and leniency is called for, and when strictness and firmness is called for, right? So because to be gentle all the time, right, to be lenient all the time, you can lead to people, being spoiled, right, and their religion being spoiled, right, and you're not going to push people into excellence, like if so that will be like a tafrid, there will be an extremity, whereby there is no firmness or there is no strictness. So you do find the life of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, instances whereby he was very firm and very strict on certain things. And if you don't understand, like, the context of it, it could cause for you to harbor bad opinions of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Okay, so these are all like this. I would say these are all, you know, um, things to really pay attention to when you learn the seerah, that if something were to occur to your heart, and Shaitan is very on the ball about this, right, to just whisper into your heart, to have bad opinions about Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So if any of these things is to come to your heart, clarify immediately, right? Kufr begins with a shak. Right? Disbelief begins with a seed of doubt. This is basically fiqh tahula. Being fiqh tahula, everyone. And fiqh tahula is a very big section on the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, because he will be a big attack, right? There'll be a big attack on him, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, because basically in Islam, right, two main things, right, form the basis of the integrity of Islam, which basically is the Quran and the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So if either one of them, the integrity of which is doubted, right, a person's Islam will collapse. You get me? Right? So which is why the enemies of Islam, the Dajjalic world order, right, will attack these two things. They will attack the integrity of the Quran, and they will attack the integrity of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Right? And of course these attacks are all false, like they're all slander, like they're all, manipulations, of the Zaman. But for a person who has no knowledge or little knowledge, or not been trained in the religion, it can be very highly convincing attacks. Right? And so and these attacks, what do they do first? They begin with a shock. Right? They would insert into the heart of the believer a doubt and unsettling, feeling, and a discomfort, if certain things in the religion, it begins there. And if this is not addressed right at the big at the roots of it, like when the seed of doubt is being planted in the heart of the believer, if it's not being addressed and not being nipped, right, then it will grow. It will grow, it will grow. Right? Shaitan is so, the Jaribu, they're so quick to make it grow. Right? And they'll keep watering it to make it grow, to the point it becomes a huge tree of doubt. So from doubt, it becomes, from shak, it becomes a rape. A rape is like really, having a discontentment with this religion. And it goes into rape. The scholars discuss this. They discuss the how a person actually falls into this belief. Right? And so like if we're in a zaman whereby I'm meeting people who really they have gone through the entire thing and they are in this belief, it's very hard to pull them back. Right? I'm going to Akidah later on, so it's all under Akidah, it's under Fiqh Tahawala, it's under everything, like, mashallah, under Sirah as well. So I'm just going through all of this because the importance of this, the importance of this, if it's not happening to you, it will, it could happen to somebody around you, your family members, your children, your relatives. May Allah protect them. Like, but it could happen to someone around you. So there has to be an intibah. There has to be pay attention. Don't, if you feel that the seed has occurred in your heart, right? Straight away address it, kill it. I kill the seed. Right? Don't let it grow into a huge tree that cannot uproot it thereafter. Right? So kufr, when it becomes a huge tree that covers the entire heart, right? And now it can't be uprooted anymore. And the person goes deep into disbelief, right? And they abandon the religion and they are destroyed. And that is what the entire, the Jadid will order is after. Right? Subhanallah. I should do my fiqh tahara today. I said I cancel. Cancel because my husband wants my time. Alhamdulillah. But really, like really, to understand this. So one of the so the two you see the two parts of Islam, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, right? So Islam is established, right, in the truthfulness, the truth, of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the truth of the Quran, right? And the truth of the Prophet ﷺ and the truth of the Quran. Right? And so the attacks will come from this angle, right? These two angles, right? So because once you collapse in a person or you destroy a person, the fiqh, right? The trusting of the Prophet ﷺ or they believe in the Prophet ﷺ, then you have destroyed the iman. And that is where it's coming from. Okay. So one of the you have a question, whoever is RS, I don't know who is RS. You have a question, your hand is raised. You want to ask a question. You can talk to me. It's okay. I don't mind talking to me. Do you want to ask a
Waalaikumsalam,
question?
Ustazah.
Or do you just Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah. Who is this?
Rauda. How are you, Ustazah?
Alhamdulillah. Rauda, which Rauda? I know a few Raudas.
Rauda Shifa. Rauda Shifa Malaysia.
Oh, okay, though. Sorry. I know a few Raudas now. Hey, you come on this class.
Okay.
Again, what's your question?
Yeah, so a question, because recently we had a gathering, right, with the people that live abroad lah in US. So they were talking about the educational system and how the nasab of the Prophet ﷺ was introduced. So they have this concept called like Sunday school tau. So then they were discussing how the questions that are being asked in their Sunday school, we call it macam religious school lah, so Saturday Sunday. Kalau like different in Canada, maybe Saturday school, but in US it's Sunday. So anyways, they were asking, they were saying that the students actually question what is the name of the Prophet Prophet's grandmother. And I find it quite interesting because we were never taught like macam explicitly what their names were. But then, you know, we did some research like obviously because to answer the questions of these students, and it's Sayyidah Fatima and also Sayyidah Barra. So I just want to, you know your opinion on this. Like, why do you think is it like the information is true? The names of the grandmothers of the Prophet ﷺ from his paternal side and his maternal side, as well as why do you think this isn't being implemented more in our because I know that it's very much nasab based because we are maybe putting more focus on the paternal side because you know nasab is important in the Prophet ﷺ's lineage. But because in the US, like they figure out, contohlah, the mother passed away, the father passed away, so he's been taking care of his grandfather, and then why is it after that his uncle? Why not his grandmother? You know, because for them that's relatable. So it's something that I had gone through recently. Jazakumullah khair, Sada.
It's a very good question. It's not emphasized. It is emphasized, right? If you go through the correct channels, correct books, Habib Umar he speaks about it a lot. So when I teach Sirah, I do mention Sayyidah Fatima binti Asad. I just spoke it to the children, who was Abu Talib's wife. She was Rasul will say of her, she's my mother after my mother. He will speak about her a lot in love and reverence. We speak about Salma, Sayyidah Salma. Like Sayyidah Salma, she is the mother of Abdul Muttalib, like the wife of Hashim. There's a whole story behind her, you know, and the strength of a woman that she was and everything, you know, bringing up Abdul Muttalib as an orphan when his father Hashim, you know, passed away and everything. Like it's actually very much in the Sirah and the Shama'il, but it's just that it takes you know study. It takes study. So the thing about it is that with regards to our culture, especially in you know in Singapore, in the West, you know, in Malaysia, right, that you know what we have taken of the Sirah has not reached there. So we're still kind of like at the baby steps of Sirah. We have not reached further than that. But if you listen to the ulama, like when Habib Umar Jasira, he goes into all the women around Rasulullah, they actually go into it. But because they've been doing Sirah since they were like what, 5 years old, so they've been doing the basics since they were children. So when they reach adult age, right, they go right into the depth of Sirah. But for us, a lot of us, you know, like our Sirah, we learn a little bit, then we're kind of like yakfina, and it's enough for us, and then we go on. You get what I mean? Like it's actually you know to go wide and deep into Sirah, you know, to spend the time, to give the time, which many people in our zaman are not doing. So if not, I would say it's not the fault, or it's not you know a naqs, or it's not a shortcoming in the part of the material. All things are and they are presented and the already the books of history is in the books of history as they are like and the Prophet is looked after by them, like, but with the istilahat, with the terminology, when you say someone takes over or someone looks after, the man is mentioned because he is the one who gives the money. You get, like, so when I say who is my wali, like, so even if like if my mother's looking after me, like my father is my wali, like, because my father is the one who is responsible for my upkeep. He's the one who's paying for me. You get me? Like, or my uncle's paying for me. Even right now in Islam, like a woman, you know, or a child, right, they are under the upkeep of who from amongst the men, because financial obligation always falls on the shoulders of men. Then it never falls on the shoulders of women. Right? So it's not that he was not given to his grandmother. Yes, his grandmother, of course, you know, if she was alive, she was around, she'd be looking after him. Of course, like, but financial burden is never on her. It can't be. Because financial burden is never on the woman. It's always on the men. So that's which is why, you know, with regards to even his, you know, when his father passed away, it was his grandfather who was sponsoring him. It was his grandfather who was paying for him. I did speak about Sayyidah Amina, yes, But she was not the one who was financially supporting Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It was his grandfather, Abdul Muttalib. And Abdul Muttalib, when he passed away, the financial, support came from who? Abu Talib, who was very poor. Right. So in a sense, you see how to understand the entire context of what do we mean by someone taking over. And we mean by that taking over in finances. And we mean by that. And secondly, also the women are definitely spoken about. They are spoken about, right? In all of the books. If you go deeper into the Sirah books, they are spoken about. The words of our ulama, they are spoken about. If you go into the lessons by our scholars, they speak about the woman about around Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. His grandmother was Sayyidah Fatima. He had a grandmother named Sayyidah Fatima. His great grandmother um, was she had a great grandmother, Sayyidah Salma, like, who was from Yathrib. She was a very strong woman in herself. She's a full story behind why she was not married at the time when she met his great grandfather Hashim, mashallah. Right, so it's really, I would say that it's really on our end. I won't say it's a shortcoming, but I'm saying that, we are still at the baby steps. We've not reached there. So sometimes people ask me some questions about like fiqh, about akidah, and so on. And I'll say to them, we've not reached there. We're still here. These things are there, they are discussed, but we've not reached it yet. Like, we're still kind of, here. We're still, at our baby steps. We're gonna get there, inshallah, we'll get there. But the thing about it is that, how many one of my things I face that amongst, when I teach people, they learn one book and they're done. Right? They're not gonna learn five books on the same topic. Whereas our scholars, they learn, and you know them, right? They learn five, six, seven, 10 books on the same topic. Right? But our, general public, like the common person, they learn one book. Okay, I've learned Sirah. I'm done. No, no, you have not learned Sirah. You've learned one book on Sirah. We study like five, six, 7 books on Sirah. Right? Then like, you kind of know something about Sirah. And mashallah. Right? But mashallah, I think most people, especially sometimes when I teach fiqh, oh, we've learned this, we've learned that. Yani, people, you know, they want to go on to something bigger, something higher. Alhamdulillah. But I would say that it's not a matter of it being not of being in our community, not really, uh, more of it. Mashallah. But I love learned about the woman around Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, his grandmothers, and this book actually mentions it. This book we're doing for Sir Mariam Haider, it actually mentions the woman. If you go further down into the book, and the stories behind them. Habib Omar will mention the stories behind them. Like, so I know about, the different what happened with Sid Hashim and his wife Selma. And she had 3 conditions. You know that she had 3 conditions for whoever wanted to marry her, and nobody could fulfill these 3 conditions except Sayyidina Hashim. She was a very strong woman. She refused every proposal, mashallah. Like, and she had 3 very strong conditions as to who wants to marry her. Like, and then Sayyidina Hashim, he was the only one who could actually fulfill these conditions. Like, and he married her while he was on his way up to Sham to actually marry a princess in Sham, because the king there could recognize that he is the ancestor of the final prophet, because they were Christians, right? The king there could recognize he was the ancestor of the final prophet, and it asked him to marry his daughter, wanting that the line of the last prophet to come from him. And Sayyidina Hashim actually agreed, but he said he had some issues to handle in Mecca, and he will come back to marry the princess. Right? So he actually went back to Mecca to handle his issues. On his way back to Sham, he went by Yathrib, he met his friend. His friend was like, this daughter of mine is supposed to get married. She has 3 conditions, whatever. And then Hashim was like, what are her conditions? And he said it. And then Hashim was like, I can fulfill them. And he fulfilled them, and he married her and consummated, and she got pregnant, and the light went to her, and then he went to Sham and he passed away before he married the princess. تقدير يعني. And she carried the light of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in her womb. Sayyidah Salma, she is a widow. Same like Sayyidina Amina, same story. A widow, pregnant, she gives birth to Abdul Muttalib. In fact, if you go back in history, I have a book here on the ancestors of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. If you go back in history, there was one of his great great grandmothers who ran away, one of his, with her child, right, and lived with, with a tribe that was away from Mecca. There was a reason why she was doing that. And I think it was a Nadir, if I'm not wrong, Nadir or one of the, oh no, it was Mudrika, Sayyidina Mudrika. So you go to the lineage of Sayyidina Mudrika, his mother. So the stories are all there. You'd be amazed. The stories are all there. Oh, mashallah. Right. Or you get to come on my Sirah class to know the conditions. Or you go to my Sirah class in on the YouTube. It's all there. It's all there. I went through them. Said Sayyidina Muhammad, she actually ran away from Mecca with Mudrika. I think it was Sayyidina Mudrika. She ran away with Sayyidina Mudrika. And then while there was once she was playing with the people, with the kids in this tribe that was outside of Mecca, and they kept calling Quraishi, Quraishi. And he didn't know he was Quraishi. Like, and he went to his mother and said, "Why are they calling me Quraishi?" And then she told him the truth. That you are actually Quraishi and you're from a very high tribe. Your father was a very high person, amongst the Quraysh, but I had to flee. And she mentioned her reasons why she had to flee. And so he went back to Mecca, so he's called Mudrika, in that sense, but there's a story behind him as well, his mother and everything. All of them were very strong women. They were very strong women, who held their ground, and they were like, they were all monotheists, they were all, great people. But the stories of the woman in the lineage of Rasulullah, it is any ma'rufa, and it is all very well known. It's just that, yeah, as I mentioned, any في كتب any في وسع any that is in books that are expanded. Then you can go into it. Because for the beginner, right, it gets very complicated for them. It gets if you think that too complicated, it's difficult for them to actually understand the science in itself. That is why Ustazah Maryam is doing a very traditional way of teaching, whereby she's just going through the main points, right? Because you all are beginners. Like, get the structure first of the science. If you've gone through the science one time round, get the structure of it, know the foundations of it. Okay, now go to another book, add on. Then once you've gotten that, go to another book, add on. It's how you become someone who masters the science, right? You do it in that way. But unfortunately, people in our zaman, they don't have the patience to do that. To go small book to a bit bigger, to a bit bigger, to a bit bigger, and every book will repeat what you learned from the previous book. It's a very, very, very firm way of traditional study. But unfortunately, in our zaman, most people don't have the patience to do that anymore. Right? So, Allah Alam, there are ways around it. So yeah, but it was a good question, and this is my answer lah. It is actually, it's all there. The stories are amazing. I didn't even stories about this woman around who are from the ancestors of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It's amazing, and how some of them had and the stories about how they, when they carried, of the ancestors of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, they would hear Subhanallah in their womb. And it's not Rasulullah in their womb. It is he's one of his ancestors. But that ancestor woman would hear, Subhanallah in the womb. She would hear it. Right? And it's all recorded, mashallah. Okay. Mashallah. Right. So just to go, so I'm just mentioning all of these things just to emphasize, on people that the importance, of really being able to uh you know, answer, things about Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, about his family, and to know what are the things really, out there. Now, okay. But the thing about it is that I can also say to you all, the thing about it is that a lot of it is also still locked in the Arabic language. Like all this time I'm telling you all, can I only heard from Habib Omar. I like it. The English books, I don't know if they've gone, because really just the English translation of stuff is still at a very primary level, right? So a lot of this like very deeper information, they're all in the books about ulama who are Arabs, and they write in Arabic. So it's all locked in the Arabic language. Right? So it does take a lot of, you know, um, work to kind of reach it, to hear from people who have reached it. Right. So either you learn Arabic language and you get a key to open up all these books and hear all these scholars, like, or you high chances these books will not be translated as well, because these books will be on for people who are serious in their study, and those who are serious in their study will actually go and learn Arabic. Which is why a lot of these, bigger and deeper books are not translated. Because those who actually want to learn these things, they will have to go to Arabic first, right, to come and assess these books. You get what I'm saying? Right. So that's why, which is why I see that a lot of these, like even tafsir, like very basic tafsir is translated, yes, but more we have like we have a treasure of tafsir books in Islam. Literally, you can fill a whole library of our tafsir books. One of it is in English, like almost less than 1% is in English. Why? Because tafsir is a full science. If you really want to get into it, you got to get the Arabic language. You have to get the Arabic language, right? So only that what is taken off and presented to those who speak in English is really just very basic. Right? If you want to go more than that, you got to go into the language itself. Right? Then you can gain more than that. You get what I'm saying? Same thing with hadith, same thing with fiqh, same thing with a lot of these books, right? Like if you want to assess something deeper and wider, you got to work on your Arabic first. And then you kind of like can go there. Even the Arabs do work on your Arabic to go to assist all these books. Like you give study its rights, Annie. Okay, tamam. Right, so about the parents of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So again, this is an attack from our zaman. About them, first and foremost, the hadith someone mentioned previously, whereby it was mentioned that Rasulullah said that my father and your father, because he's speaking to one of the disbelievers, and so when he was speaking to one of the Muslims whose father was a disbeliever, he said, my father and your father are both in the hellfire. The interpretation of that hadith is that he was referring to Abu Lahab, right? He was referring to Abu Lahab, right? Because in the Arabic culture, in fact, in most cultures, you can call your paternal uncle your father. Sah, it's sah. It's not a lie. It's sah. You can call your paternal uncle your father, right? So, and he was said that also he was referring to Abu Lahab, right? Because he didn't want to crush the heart of this believer who was asking about his father, in the sense that to say to him, many people, as long as their fathers passed away on kufr, on disbelief, they are in the hellfire. So it's not just your father, but there are many people who their ancestors are in the hellfire because they died on kufr after having heard the message, right? So that hadith actually refers to Abu Lahab, and Abu Lahab is confirmed in the hellfire by the Quran, right? So with regards to the parents of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, as the article that Sayyidina Maryam sent me, they are Ahl Fatra. And so Ahl Fatra basically are people who exist between two prophets. So those who exist between two prophets, right? There are two things that are possible on them. First thing is that they are to believe in the very last prophet that was sent to mankind, who was Nabi Isa, right? If they had heard the message of Nabi Isa, right? So if you go into the ancestry of Rasulullah, there were people in his ancestry who fought in the army of Nabi Dawood, alayhi salam. Because if you go into his ancestry, right, he goes all the way back, to Adnan. And then Adnan has a gap, and then there is Nabi Ismail. So there were people in his ancestry who lived in the same zaman as Nabi Musa. They lived in the same zaman as Nabi Dawood. In the same zaman as Nabi Isa. Like they're in the same zaman. Same zaman. It's not mustahil. Same zaman, right? So the people of Al-Fatra meaning between prophets, right? They are to believe in the very last prophet if the message of that prophet reached them. People in Mecca, right, they were aware of what's going on in Sham, right, in Palestine, because Nabi Isa was in Palestine. They were aware of what's going on in Palestine somewhat. Right? People in Mecca, the very last prophet for them is Nabi Ismail. He was the very last prophet for them. And we know by proof in the Zaman of Rasulullah SAW, there were people who were still on the religion of Nabi Ibrahim and Nabi Ismail, and they were called the Hunafa. And they were well known. Right? There was a group of people, they were well known, they were the Hunafa. Right? And they were holding on strongly to the religion of Nabi Ibrahim, Nabi Ismail, and it's sah the iman. The iman is sah. It is valid, right? That they thoughts and views the disbelief of the people of Mecca at that time who had invented idols. Right. So of the people who were Hunafa in the time of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right, was Sayyidina Warqa bin Nawfal, Sayyidina Khadija, she was a Hanifa, right, Sayyidina Abu Bakr was Hanif, right, there were a group of them. Rasulullah himself was a Hanif, right, and every one of his ancestors were Hunafa, which means that they were believers like Ibrahim alayhi salam, which means that kafir just because they exist before the religion of Rasulullah. There was another prophet before Rasulullah, and that was Nabi Ibrahim and Nabi Ismail. And they had received the message of Nabi Ibrahim and Nabi Ismail, and they had believed in it correctly. And they had rejected the innovations of the people of Mecca. right? So they are, so they are considered to be believers and followers of Nabi Ibrahim, Nabi Ismail. Right? So the argument is very strong. And so you see, when people just hear one side and you don't hear what is a real, you think about it right now, right? Makes so much sense, right? Think about it right now. It makes so much sense. Yeah. Right? There were people in Zaman of Rasulullah who are believers in one true God. And where did they hear about this message? Nabi Ibrahim. They are descendants from Nabi Ibrahim. That's where they heard about this. Right? So it's not mustahil that they are believers in time of Rasulullah. Of course not. Right? They got this from who? Nabi Ibrahim. Right? Nabi Ibrahim, Nabi Ismail. And they had interactions with other prophets through generations. Some of them met Nabi Dawood. So they met, they knew of Nabi Musa. And so they knew of Nabi Isa. They're not far. They're all in the peninsula. They're all, around. They do a lot of trade between each other. They know of the existence of these prophets, right? Right. So the first argument against these people who claim that the parents of Rasulullah are in the hellfire, the first argument is that the parents are between prophets first and foremost. So those who come between prophets, if the message did not reach them, they are not held to account. Right? And on the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will deal with them in a way that is most just. Right. Secondly, if the message of the previous prophet reached them, and they believe in that message, which the parents and all of the ancestors, male and female, believed in. The very last prophet that reached them was Nabi Ibrahim, Nabi Ismail, and Nabi Ismail alayhi salam. Right? Then they are counted as believers. وخلاص. They are counted as believers. There is a story lah. Mashallah. Of course, people. I mean, the narration and everything about the story, right? Whereby Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was on one of the trips, one of his ghazwa, one of the battles, like he actually went by the place where his mother was buried, right? And he remembered exactly where his mother was buried, right? And of course, and it's not for those who want to believe the story. For myself, I believe the story, right? He went to the place where his mother was buried, right? And he and the Sahaba followed him and began to cry and cry and cry and cry and cry, and eventually out of missing his mother and remembering his mother, like, and there is a story of him making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring his mother back to life, for his mother to take the shahada with him, which in this narration, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought his mother, not his mother but his father as well. They both came back to life by Allah's power. They said the shahada, then they passed away. Right? So of course, in the part of Aqidah, right, doing the shahada after someone's real death, which was many years ago for the Prophet of Rasulullah, that doesn't actually count, in a sense, because those who have passed away, they've seen the truth, right? Those who have passed away, they've seen the truth. Right? So whether you do the shahada after that, technically doesn't count. Technically doesn't count, right? Because they've seen it. You get it? They've seen it. Okay? They've seen the truth of the next world, right? But in a sense, it's more of like to bring tranquil to the heart of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right, and to raise the level of his parents. On from that bab, okay, from that angle, right? Those who say also that the lightest punishment of the hellfire is on Abu Talib, there is no proof at all for that. In fact, I have a book right now. I'm reading it. I have a book on all the proofs that Abu Talib was actually a believer. This entire book, of all the proofs of the iman of Abu Talib. So the ulama here in Tarim Haram especially, they don't comment on Abu Talib. They don't comment on Abu Talib. You don't know. You don't know what he kept in his heart. And Allah knows what he kept in his heart. Right? So there is a hadith that says that the minimum punishment in the hellfire is that a person, the hadith does not say Abu Talib. The hadith says a person is given a pair of slippers from the hellfire that makes their brain boil. That's the minimum punishment of the hellfire. There is a true hadith, yes, but the hadith says a person. Right? It does not actually say this will be Abu Talib. La. It says a person. Right? So, but people like, oh, Abu Talib is in the hellfire because he's a mushrik, so therefore because of his support of the Prophet ﷺ, he is the least punished in the hellfire, so he's that person. No, no, no. There's no proof of that. There's no proof of that. Right? No one said that. Right? But it's just a conclusion that some people make. Right? And they have no right to do so. Right? And we have no right to actually comment on anybody being in the hellfire unless the Quran or the Hadith have said so. Understand that, eh? that we have no right to comment on anyone being in the hellfire, even in our zaman, and they died on disbelief, or they died as non-Muslims. You don't know at the point of death, did they actually, taubat, and did they take the shahada, or did they believe? You don't know. You really don't know at the point of death what happened to them. Even someone who's a believer. I mean, we have Husnuzan, inshallah, they died well. But there was a story of us. There was one person who died in battle during the time of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He died in battle, but, subhanAllah, in jihad. And there was one Sahaba who was there when past this guy who passed away or was killed in the battle. And he said, MashaAllah, Shaheed, fi sabilillah. In the highest parts of paradise. This guy, this one of the Sahaba was commenting on the one who was killed in battle. Says that, he's a Shaheed, died in the way of Allah in the highest parts of paradise. And the Rasulullah turned to him and said, how do you know? How do you know? Perhaps he has done something. Or perhaps he has done, perhaps he didn't come out in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sincerely. Perhaps he came for the booty. Perhaps he came for, and because the person who had died, the person himself was not sincere. He was actually a hypocrite, the one who died. Right? So somebody who didn't know this guy was actually a hypocrite, he was praising the guy, saying that he owes Shahid Fisabilillah. Rasulullah who knows the guy is a hypocrite. How do you know? You don't know. All you say about the deceased is, may Allah forgive them, and accept their good deeds. That's all you say, because you don't know. You don't know. And what was it when he died? When he died, were they believers, disbelievers? What were they? No, they're mattered to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And honestly, frankly, this entire issue with regards to mashallah. So the Mariam, she even used the chat GPT to try and help me translate. She was like, she'll help me translate, but chat GPT gives you all kinds of nonsense in translation, ya Allah. But Nam, right? So and then she gave me like a whole list of the meanings of the names of the ancestors of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, mashallah. Allah, all the way, all to Adnan, right? And they also mentioned who were their wives, and who was the specific wife who bore the the next line in the line of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. They actually mentioned who was the specific wife, because they usually have wives in it, but who was the specific wife who bore the next person in line in life of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam usually, right? So okay, now. What other questions were asked? And she sent me a lot of videos also for me to open up and listen to. Somebody asked about last week, but that was during the Wednesday class, about the tafsir of is it during the Sirah, or was it during Sirah? Yeah, Sirah, about Siraj and Munira, right? About Siraj and Munira. She sent me the tafsir. She sent me the tafsir of Siraj and Munira. You want to hear that one? Like she takes all those your questions seriously, Sister Mariam. She really takes your questions seriously, and she gives me all the answers right after. But I don't actually translate. Okay. So the tafsir I mentioned the last week, like someone asked to know more about Siraj and Munira. This was Mariam's answer. Yeah, someone asked him last week, right? To know more about Siraj and Munira. And she said that is a tafsir, right? So the ayat is وَدَاعِيًا إِلَى اللَّهِ بِإِذْنِهِ سِرَاجًا مُنِيرًا, and he is a call to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and a clear and an illuminating lamp. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Right. So here the statement is that Allah sent him as a caller, right, with tawheed, right, to call to the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by Allah's permission and Allah's commandment. That one is the tafsir, eh? Right, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised him as an illuminating light, right, because he will remove the darkness of disbelief and ignorance. That is the understanding of Siraj Munira. He, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, will remove the darkness of disbelief and ignorance, and his light will continue, because it's Siraj and Munira. It means it's a continuous, sense. This light will continue in every zaman. Right? So the light of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will shine bright in every zaman. So every group of human beings will, the light is there, right, to bring them out of whatever darkness that they might be in their zaman. Okay, so this is why the word Sirajah Munira was in the same verse as him being a caller to Allah, right? So he's a caller to give clarity in this world, right, to the path of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. Nam, she sent me a few videos, but I don't want to open the videos right now. I think like because it will take a long time to get through the videos. I have to translate it because they're all in Arabic. They're all in Arabic. I have to translate the videos and everything. Okay. Are there any things that specifically you want me to address that I probably didn't address? I think I addressed most of what she sent me. Uh, um, she sent more. She addressed most of what she sent me more or less. But the videos, oh, I didn't. I have not gone through the videos. But there is very much a lot of things in the videos. Mm. I hope I answered the question, any about the parents of Rasul especially. And also the scholars say generally do not comment on anyone being in the hellfire or in paradise. None of your business. Like all of these things are in the like these things. It is the matter of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. It's Allah's affair. Like so, even when I've had students or teenagers, they ask the question, like, why is it that the disbelievers, right, just because they don't believe in Islam, like they are thrown to the hellfire, right, and they are good people, while there are believers who are terrible people, they could be murderers or rapists or whatsoever, and just because they are Muslim, they get to go to the hell to go to the paradise. Like I tell you, the first answer, the first thing you should say to these kind of questions is this matter is for Allah to decide, and Allah will decide what is most just. It's not for us to occupy our minds with this matter. And I've met teenagers because this matter, shaitan brings to their mind and bothers them with this matter of how can my non-Muslim friend be in hellfire? She's such a good person. She's so sweet. She's so helpful. How can just because she's not a Muslim, she goes to the hellfire, kaza, kaza, kaza. And it makes them dislike Islam. It actually makes them dislike Islam, right? But the first answer to this kind of questions is that we don't actually know. You don't actually know where is your end. You don't know. You don't know where's your end. And this matter of heaven and hell is Allah's matter, not our matter. Our matter is what? Believe and do good deeds. Wahalas. I believe and do good deeds. But of course, if you want to answer that question, paradise belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah is Allah. It belongs to Allah. So if someone doesn't want to believe in Allah, Allah has every right to not allow that person to enter his paradise. You want to believe in him, but you want his paradise. How does that make sense? Right. I mean, subhanAllah, it's his paradise. And he can choose who enters his paradise. And this is someone who denies his presence, or his existence, and then they want his paradise. How is that so? It doesn't make sense. Right. I mean, the owner, you gotta know who's the owner of it. Subhanallah. Right. So if you ask what is the religion of the parents of Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Islam. Because why? They follow the religion of who? Nabi Ibrahim. ونحن على ملة نبي إبراهيم عليه السلام. And هذا ملة إبراهيم. It is the way of Ibrahim. Are we on the deen of Ibrahim? Yes. Right. Nabi Ibrahim was أول المسلمين. Nabi Ibrahim was the first of the believers. It's in the Quran. He's the first of the. It's now dua our dua iftitah. لا شريك له وبذلك أمرت وأنا من المسلمين. Nabi Ibrahim said وأنا أول المسلمين. Right? In our dua iftitah we say and I am first the Muslims. Nabi Ibrahim when he said and I am the first of the Muslims. Of course Nabi Adam is the first one, yes. But Nabi Ibrahim is the first one to say it. Yani, to use the terminology Muslim. Nabi Ibrahim used it. Right. So those after Nabi Ibrahim, all under Muslim. All of them. Right. I mean, the terminology was first used by Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. But of course, Nabi Adam, believer. A believer all the way. Right. So, of course, what is their religion? Islam. Islam has been there since the beginning of time, right? Allah has no beginning. Allah is the God of the Muslims, right? He's the God of everything, and he's the God that the Muslims worship. right? So, I mean, every prophet, I mean, hum Muslimun, kulhum Muslimun. Right? You understand that? Okay. Someone who can't seem to pray up to 5 times a day. If someone is having problems praying 5 times a day. Usually the issue, I can tell you one thing, is always one issue. Obsession with dunya. It's nothing further than that. Like those who find prayer hard on them, you're having a lot of dunya in your heart. Just a lot of striving for dunya. Dunya is the biggest obstruction to praying 5 times a day. Attachment to dunya. Right? So I would say a very good dua if you can memorize dua Imam al-Haddad. اللهم أخرج من قلبي كل قدر للدنيا وكل محل للخلق يميل بي إلى معصيتك أو يشغلني عن طاعتك أو يحل بيني وبين معرفة الخاصة ومحبتك الخالصة. Is in the khulasa, you can say in English as well, it's okay, it's a dua. Right? But basically, remove dunya from the heart. That is the biggest, most influential reason, or the most common reason, in fact, why a person drags their feet to the prayer. Dunya, nothing further. Dunya, right? Really nothing further. Right, subhanallah. So if they can't pray 5 times a day, it's just that they are intoxicated with dunya. And okay, I will stop there. I'm so sorry that actually I kind of covered most of her stuff that she sent me. Only the videos, all I didn't go through because I haven't downloaded all the videos. My internet is finishing. But I will download them soon, inshallah. Okay, barakallahu fikum. She will continue next week, I guess. You all can ask your questions, mashallah. So take this opportunity to ask your questions. So the Mariam Haider, she is trained in fiqh tahawulat. Like, so we do come from that angle. I can ask things from the zaman. So she's covering two areas that which are the main attack areas in our zaman, which is ihsan, ilmu ihsan, right? Which is suluk lah, suluk, basically to purify your character, take the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and sirah, right? The life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. These two things are being attacked in our zaman, and these are the two main things that drag people out of Islam. So she's doing these two books, not randomly, right? But basically Habib points to these two things, right? That people need to firm up their knowledge of ihsan and the knowledge of sirah. That's why she's doing it. And she's giving if you notice, she always teaches only for half an hour. Most of the time, she teaches for half an hour. Then she gives half an hour to questions, because it's very important that you'll understand the material and that you bring out your questions of the zaman. You bring the questions of the zaman, which is very good because I think when someone asks about the parents of Rasulullah, that is exactly one of the issues of our zaman. That's exactly it. That's exactly one of the issues of our zaman that makes people doubt the Prophet. It's an attack. To attack his parents is to attack him. If you attack my parents, you're attacking me, right? Same thing. If you attack his parents, you're attacking him. And Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and you're in fact attacking Allah in a sense by saying that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala did not, elect the parents of Rasulullah to be believers, right? And also of our iman, then Nabi Ibrahim's father was a believer. The man mentioned in the Quran whose name is Azar was his uncle. It was not his father. It's by consensus, by consensus. Because when Allah speaks about fathers, right, in the Quran, there is no need to mention the name, right? But when in the Quran Allah says his father Azar, so Allah specified who he's talking about, which means that not his real father by blood, his uncle. Azar was an uncle of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. Right? So be very clear on your tafsir and be very clear on your aqidah. Right? So Nabi Ibrahim's father was a believer. Nabi Ibrahim was an orphan. Like Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Nabi Ibrahim was orphaned, right? And his uncle looked after him. Same like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but only that for Nabi Ibrahim, his uncle, it is confirmed his uncle is a disbeliever. I am in the Quran itself is confirmed the uncle is a disbeliever. تمام. الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة. أن الله يرزق المنافع وعملا خالصا من الهدى ويسر به قبل النبي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وأرواح معلمنا ومشايخنا وذوي الحق علينا وإلى حضرة النبي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. الفاتحة. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. And sometimes I don't answer your questions. Sometimes it's because I don't know the answer and I'm checking for you. So if I'm not responding, that means I don't know the answer. So I probably am checking it for you. Okay? Just tell yourself all these things. Give me excuses. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'll see you all later on, inshallah, for the Aqidah. Barakallahu feekum.